Hello everybody and welcome back to the Leeds Lens. Harry Gray has signed a contract with Leeds United. It's unknown how long it actually has been at Leeds United, but he has signed a professional contract with Leeds United. Of course, he did turn 17 this month, and there was a rumour in Farke's press conference. I think Farke made it pretty clear in his press conference last week that he was going to sign, and he has signed, which is fantastic news. So we're going to talk about that a bit tonight. We're also, tonight, going to look a bit at a lad called Sissoko, plays for Maccabi. I don't think there's any truth in it. We'll probably skip over it. We'll probably do it in about 20 seconds, but we'll talk a bit about that. And also, I have been deep diving into the stats of Leeds United this season, and I know people don't like XG, and I know people don't like big chances stats. I'm telling you, I think you might quite like this, because I know we all understand that stats are not the world. I mean, if stats were the world, we'd have won the game at the weekend, and they don't mean everything. But I do think these stats are really interesting to see who's performing in the Leeds United team, because we go into individuals and we also look as a team as well. So I think I've only picked out a few, but I think they'll be quite interesting. So I would definitely stick around for that. But of course, we need to start by talking about Harold Gray. It's not called Harold Gray, of course, he's called Harry. But this is fantastic news, isn't it? This is fantastic news. This is the player, this is the 17-year-old all Leeds United fans want looking down. Not just because, obviously, he's a Gray, but also what he can offer, hopefully, Leeds United for the next few years as well. And hopefully, as well, it does, we don't like to talk about it, but it does protect his value. And we know with the current FFP climate and the current PSR climate, cashing in on someone like Harry Gray and having the ability to do that at some point could really aid Leeds United in a certain point. We obviously don't want that to happen. We want to live the Gray dynasty again and again and again. Of course we do. But that has got something to bear in mind. Archie Gray, when we sold him, got us really out of a tight spot a few years back when we were obviously struggling with FFP and we got 40 million quid for him. So I'm not saying that, look, I don't want to sell Harry Gray already. I don't want to sell Harry Gray at all. But it's nice to have him signed up. I think it's also important as well because this prioritises the academy naturally. The other players who are 16, 17 will look at Harry Gray sign at Leeds United as one of the best 17-year-olds in the country at this moment and think, I want to play with Leeds United because I want to play with Harry Gray. In the same way top players want to play with other top players. So this will massively help and aid Leeds United in terms of being able to bring new players into the academy as well, which is a fantastic thing for Leeds United, because I do think, and we talked about this a few times ago, and I think Graham Bailey reported about a few weeks ago that he was set to sign, the fact that Leeds United need to focus a bit more on youth development in the football club. I think we were doing it really well under Bielsa. I think we've started to stunt our youth development over the last few years at Leeds United since the 49ers have come in. I think they've done a lot right, the 49ers. I don't think they did that well in the summer transfer window, and I don't think they've been doing that well on youth development, in my opinion. As I said, with the PSR climate, it's important that we've got a phenomenal academy at this moment in time. It's massively, massively important. So getting a star boy and a star signed up like Harry Gray not only will help in terms of what he'll bring to Leeds United, but it should also help Leeds United attract killer talent to the football club. Because as I said, even look at where the top players want to play for. We've lost players in the past. I think Finlay Gorman, etc., to Man City. They want to play for Man City because they've got the best facilities, but not just the best facilities. They've got the best players as well. Players want to play in a team that's successful. Of course they do. Obviously they do. And it's, as I said, it's no different at youth stage as it is at professional stage. So again, having a player like Harry Gray, who could be a staple of our academy at this moment, we should allow Leeds United to get more players in it through the academy. So it's fantastic because, as I said, it has stalled. Like you look back at sort of Gellart, Drama, Greenwood. I know none of these worked at Leeds United as such. I know Gellart's having a decent time at Hull at this moment, but none of them have really worked. But I think it was a step in the right direction for Leeds United. But we have gone a bit away from it. B Quirky says, wonder if is it a signing so we get more money off Spurs? Potentially it is. But again, even if that is the case, at least we're going to get more money off Spurs, because even I don't think we will cash in soon, because I think the best way to get the best price for these young players is to get them in the first team eventually, have a year under the belt like you saw with Archie Gray, and the price skyrockets, because you're not going to get anywhere near that for Harry Gray at this moment. So I don't think the club will do that. So I think we will have a quote unquote good season of Harry Gray before he moves on, hopefully, if his development goes as we've planned. But it's important that we do start to really focus on the youth development at the football club, and this should be hopefully a staple of that. And also, as I said, bringing a dynasty of the Greys through is fantastic, because I think you look around the leagues at this moment, and the sort of training ground and the youth structure that we've got at the football club does need to improve. Like, we do need an upgraded academy, because like anybody, if you're going to work, you want to go to work in a place where the best facilities are. Of course you do. Every single player wants to do that. So it's definitely able for youth players. And I look at sort of Leicester and what they're doing at this moment. And as I said, we talked about this a few weeks ago, but I think it's relevant now. And the players that they've got through, like some Monga, Jake Evans just signed a new deal, a few others at Leicester as well. And that's come from me, from having a fantastic training ground and getting that new £100 million training ground at Seagrave. So I think Leeds United do need, I know they've been work into Thorpe Arch under the 49ers, but I think we need to see more of that, in my personal opinion, to again attract these players. So yeah, overall though, good news with Harry Gray. Fantastic news there. Anyway, let's move on to the next talking point, which is Sissoko. He is a midfield player, plays for Maccabi, Mali international as well. And he's been reported to be linked to Leeds United. It's reported that Leeds United will go in there from a number of outlets. My honest opinion with this is, this won't happen. I think this is nonsense. I really do. I think this is classic agent talk, trying to get a player to move, link them to Leeds United, and all of a sudden other clubs might be interested as well in the services of the 23-year-old. I just don't see this at all. I think we can, I might be completely wrong, but I think we can park this in the nonsense category, in my personal opinion. I get people have to do jobs and make stories and stuff, and that's what it's got to be, but I just don't see how this lines up. There's also a situation where, because he's coming from the country, is getting a visa in this country is going to be very difficult as well. It's just a no-go. I've seen it online, so I thought I'd bring it into the show, but as I said in the intro, I didn't think this was going to be a long-term thing to talk about, because truthfully, we're not going to be signing Sissoko. He might be a long-term target potentially. I also don't think we need a midfielder as well. We need attackers. We need wingers. That's what will be my opinion for the last few months, and nothing's changed. So yeah, we can park this in the probably nonsense category, in my opinion. B. Quirk says, hopefully we learn from Finlay Gorman. 5 million sounds great for a youngster, but he's going to be the real deal in years to come. Yeah, hopefully, that's what you're hoping. Obviously, people don't always progress like you expect, but we've seen the path of Archie Gray, and we know with the Greys, naturally, he's going to be protected. He's not going to be someone that's exposed to a load of crap. They won't let him go off the rails and start partying and wasting his talent. That won't happen. He'll be kept humble and sort of composed in the Gray family, because we know what they've done with Archie Gray. So I'm not worried about the sort of him going off the rails like you would expect sometimes when you give too much to someone too young, because obviously they're there, like Savedi, etc., to keep him in order. So yeah, I'm really happy about this Harry Gray deal. I was expecting him to sign, to be honest. But I am really pleased with it. I think it's really good news. So you're hoping he's a sort of player that, on the worst case scenario, Leeds United get relegated. I know no one wants to talk about that, but the worst case scenario that happens, he's hopefully someone that then in the Championship next year, or even in the Premier League next year, could step up into this Leeds United team and be a real sort of focus for Leeds. So yeah, good news all around with Gray, and obviously Sissoko, not so much. Anyway, let's move on to something that, as I said, I've been looking into Leeds United today, and I found it really, really interesting. I actually genuinely think you guys will find it interesting. I've not just brought it up for any other reason. I think it will be enjoyable to look at. So we'll start with this stat that I've found, which is big chances. And you'll see at the top, I've written it in big letters. So Leeds United are currently 9th for big chances in the Premier League, which I think is pretty impressive to say where we're at the moment. And if you look around, if you look how many goals we've scored, that is obviously an issue. But I think Leeds United, in terms of creating chances, I don't think that's ever been a problem. Like, we can talk about the attackers and the lack of attackers in this final third, and I think that's a problem at this moment in time. And I think with the way we're playing, we could be going to the next level with better attackers. I know Fart gets a lot of blame, and rightly so at times. I get that. But he is putting in a system that is creating chances. We are, as I said, the 9th for big chances created, which is important, and it's something that we can build on. And if we start taking more of our chances, we should start to fire away at the lead. So that's something to bear in mind. And also, I think, when you talk about big chances, and I talked about the attack not providing, I was interested to know, if we are 9th, where are actually the big chances coming from? And this is really interesting. So for big chances created in the division, Longstaff is actually 6th in the whole league for big chance created, and I think he's actually joint 2nd, or is he joint? Might be joint 3rd actually. Yeah, I think he's joint 3rd, and I think there's only Wharton and maybe somebody else higher than him. I think it's Salah who are higher than him in the division with 5. So I think it's impressive that for someone that's playing in midfield, as we know, Sean Longstaff, and someone that we've talked about, Stack, and what he can bring creatively, it's really interesting to me actually that Longstaff is actually one of the top players in the league, in the whole division, not just at Leeds United, for big chances created. And I thought, well, is that just a bit of he's had 4 big moments? But actually, you go further, and as I said again, for just chances created in the division, he's 3rd again. So this is not just he's created 4 chances over games, and that can happen because of just a bit of fluke. He's actually there for chances created as well. Now, obviously, he takes set pieces, so that's going to bear in mind with this naturally. But I do think it's interesting that we've got Sean Longstaff so high, because we've obviously brought Stack in the team for that sort of reason, and we all thought really that Stack was going to provide all this real quality. But it actually looks like at this moment, Sean Longstaff, and as I said, he is on set pieces, and Stack is, I think, 9th currently for chances created, so he's not miles off either. But I do think it's really interesting actually that for chances created, Sean Longstaff is so high, because as I said, I think a lot would potentially pull Longstaff out at this moment and go, well, Stack's got more quality, so I want to go Stack, Tanaka, and Nampady as a midfield 3. But actually, this doesn't. I think Longstaff is better off the ball than Stack comfortably. I think he's much better at sort of his physicality and getting around the pitch than Stack, in my opinion. But also, as you can see from here, he's also offering a lot going forward as well, which, as I said, this is why I brought him to the show, because I think it's quite an interesting. I haven't seen people talk about this. Obviously, the counteracting argument from this is that we are currently struggling with big chances missed. We are currently 5th in the whole division. So yes, we're doing well in terms of big chances created, as you can see, being 9th. But one of the worst teams for missing big chances as well. And then what's important is, if you look at these teams here, Crystal Palace, Man City, Liverpool and Man United, all of them are above us for chances created as well. Because, of course, the more chances you create, naturally, the more you're going to miss. So this is quite an interesting situation that we are quite clearly terrible in front of goal. We are awful in front of goal. And when you look at sort of where the bodies are coming from, that it is, as you can imagine, Calvert-Lewin is up there. And now, obviously, John Mateta has missed 10 big chances, but he's also scored, I think, 5 or 6 goals. Haaland, we know, scored 11 goals in that as well. Calvert-Lewin's only scored 1 goal. Semenyo, again, I think, scored about 7 goals as well. Haaland and Semenyo are the 2 top scorers in the division at this moment, I think, as well. So, whereas Calvert-Lewin has only got 1 and missed 5 big chances. It's more acceptable to miss big chances if you're scoring big chances. This year with Calvert-Lewin, he isn't. And I think that's sort of looked at again when you look at the shot conversion, which you can see sort of just underneath that says 7.7, which again is not. This is a problem for Leeds United, because we can talk about, and I talk about all the time on this channel, about Calvert-Lewin and what he brings this Leeds United team. But there's one thing he definitely does need to improve, and people talk about this all the time, and it's true, is his shot conversion rate. That is far too low. We cannot end the season with Calvert-Lewin on 7.7 for shot conversion rate and having missed, and he can't, because at the moment, he converts 1 in 6 big chances at the football club. That cannot continue. He cannot keep converting 1 in 6 on big chances. It needs to be up where, not obviously Haaland's an exception, but you've got to get that shot conversion rate up to the point where you're scoring 1 every 3 big chances. He's got to get that down massively. He's almost doubling what he should be doing at this moment, in my opinion. As I said, I think 1 in 3 big chances is fair enough and should be ending up in the back of the net. And also, it's important that Leeds United don't create tons of chances. So when we do get them, they've got to fall in the back of the net for sure. Although, as I said, for me, there's no question if Calvert-Lewin should start. He brings so much to the game. I mean, even at the weekend, he knocks the ball down for Bogle for an open goal. But like that is a chance created as well. So there is sort of retrospect to bear in mind with this. It's not just all bash Calvert-Lewin. He does bring a lot to the game, but he's got to sharpen his finishing. It doesn't mean everything's perfect. Jack says, evening, Scott. Evening to you too, Jack. Then I wanted to look at a bit about how we're doing defensively, because, and this is probably more interesting than any of this, I think, potentially, which is that, as we know, Leeds United, for context, have conceded 6 goals in the last 6 games, have not gone 1-0 up in any game since the first game of the season. But actually, on XG conceded, we're 4th bottom in the whole league for XG conceded. This is not a team that's actually conceding loads of chances. And I think when you look at what's happening at Leeds United at the moment, we are dominating in terms of stats. Like, we are dominating in terms of chances created. Like, you look at the weekend as sort of summarised Leeds United's season, in my opinion, so far. We have over 2.5 XG. They have 0.5. They score a worldie, and we switch off for 1 moment and 1 big chance, and they score a goal. Because you look at, as I said, and this is, you can say, well, Scott, you're lying, and this isn't true, but you look at the data, and that's what it suggests. That is what it suggests. So this is when I look at sort of Daniel Farke in his position, and I look at sort of what you can say he's doing right and doing wrong. Like, obviously, everything, some people just blame Farke for everything, but when we have got a lack of quality compared to the teams in the final third. Aronson and Harrison wouldn't start for any other team in this division. And to be honest, as much as I like Calvert-Lewin, he probably wouldn't start 15 teams in the division, in my opinion, either. So naturally, when you've got a worse front three, you're going to miss more chances. You're not going to be as good at converting chances. Naturally, we know that Calvert-Lewin is not as good a converter as Haaland. Of course, he's not. But then that's not Daniel Farke's fault that Calvert-Lewin can't convert chances, because he's just not as good a player. So this is a nice underlying data point that actually, yes, we are not doing well at the moment in terms of losing games like we did against Burnley. But can Farke set us up any better when we're fourth bottom for XG conceded? We're fourth bottom for it. Now, I'm not saying I think there is ways that Farke can set us up better, but I think it does give it, I think if you're the 49ers looking at this moment, they will be looking at data like this and looking at how many chances we're conceding and taking that into account and going, with a new manager, are we going to perform any better? Because, yes, we're not winning games, but actually the data underlying is actually pretty good. I mean, fourth bottom in the league after 8 games, which is a decent sample size. We've played Arsenal in that time. We've played Newcastle in that time. We've played a lot of decent teams in that time. And to be fourth bottom is impressive. There's no doubt about it. Because look at the teams that we're with. Man City's defence is a phenomenal, and they keep the ball religiously. Newcastle, we know, are always a fantastic defence. And Arsenal, for me, are looking like the best defence I have ever seen in the Premier League. They're that good. It's impressive from Leeds United. There's no doubt about it. The last time we focused on finishing was before the Wolves match. I hope they've been doing it again this week. I imagine they're doing finishing every day, mate, in truth, but I could be wrong. But maybe you're right. We do need to focus on finishing, and it is a weakness. But I think sometimes we over-egg the pudding with it. I really do. And naturally, we've got to be results biased. If you don't results biased, you'll send yourselves down. You've got to be results biased, and I get that, and I get people saying that. But you also want the underlying data to match up, and that doesn't look half bad to me. If you end the season fourth bottom for XG conceded, you will not be a crap defence. You won't be. And then if you look further at this, and I look at why are we so low for XG conceded compared to goals conceded, and this is a problem, and nobody's talked about this. This is an issue. Now, I know we can talk about Carl Dowell and think he's done a good time. He's currently second bottom in the whole league for goals prevented for a goalkeeper. Now, I know there's other stats that bear in mind with the goalkeeper, and I think a lot of goalkeeper is depending on an eye test, but I think this gives a summary as to where he currently is at. That is bad. That is not good at all. He's conceded 8 goals, as we know. We conceded 5 under Perry, so that's we've conceded, 13 goals so far this season from an XG conceded of only 8.6. That is a worry. That is definitely a concern, because that is not a good stat. You do not want to end your keeper on a minus thing. And to put into perspective about why I think Perry should come back into the team, because we talk about kicking with Dowell, and that's just something to bear in mind. But I do think there has been times there's been issues. Like, I even saw the winger that scored at the weekend for Burnley come out and say after the game that he thought Dowell's position was off before he took the shot, which is why he took the shot on in the first place. And obviously it went into the back of net. He thought he wasn't ready to take the shot on, which again doesn't speak well of Carl Dowell, who've been told. I don't want this to be a bashing Dowell, and I don't think he's been awful. But that underlying data is bad. That is bad. And then you look, and the reason I'll say it's bad and why Perry should come in is because I looked at Perry last season for as a bit of a retrospect, and look at his goal prevented. It's plus 6.05. Now, there's something to bear in mind with this. Obviously, goals prevented takes into account, for anyone that doesn't know, goals prevented is the XG you've conceded compared to the goals that have actually gone in the back of the net. So it's the XG, but naturally, because the Premier League is better and the players are better in the Premier League than the Ligue 1, naturally they're more likely to take the chances because they're better footballers fundamentally. So naturally, goals prevented is a bit skewed on this because the players in Ligue 1 aren't as good, so they don't shoot as well consistently. But that is quite damning, the fact that he's 6.05 goals prevented. Now, that's all seen as well, so we don't know what had happened. But that is quite an improvement on the minus 2.7 that you've seen from Dowell so far this season. So I just think when we talk about Perry, yes, I don't think he's made a fabulous start to his Leeds career, in my opinion. 2 clean sheets in 3 games, by the way, but I don't think he was fabulous. He was awful against Arsenal, in my personal opinion. I was really worried about him. But that is decent underlying data. And you can go back goals conceded, yeah, but you can also play in a bad defence. Whereas if you look at all these actual metrics, save percentage at 72.5 is really strong, as you can see with it being a green bar. 6.5 goals prevented, and obviously 10 clean sheets is pretty good as well. But again, that's more to do with the whole defence. But yeah, that is so when I talk about the fact that I would put Perry back in the team, I think this some sort of goes to show why I would probably do that. So that's where I'm at with it. But I just thought I'd bring them data points into the show tonight. Obviously, it's going to be a bit of a shorter show because I don't want to talk about loads about West Ham and stuff like that because obviously we'll have the preview and I don't want to ruin it. But yeah, I just wanted to bring them into the show because I think it's just interesting to see are we actually getting what we think we're getting in terms of performance levels, or is there something that because if your results underlying data points are really strong and you're not getting results, the data would tell you that eventually that's going to improve. That's what the data would tell you. And if you listen to Gary O'Neill on Monday Night Football as well, he wouldn't shut up about data. So that is massive in the game at this moment in time. And there's no doubt that the 49ers are looking at that when they're looking at sort of their situation with the manager. Because we even know with recruitment now at Leeds United, they use data to find underlying data points to buy transfers. So of course they're going to be looking at when they're looking at sort of Leeds United and how they're performing this season as well, for 100%. Now, as I said, winning on XG every game doesn't get you the 3 points, but it suggests a sign that you might end up getting the 3 points later in the season. Anyway, thanks all for watching. As always, if you could drop a like, subscribe on all that sort of good stuff for the channel. There's also this thing called hype at the moment, so if you can see that and scroll across, if you could do that, that would be brilliant. It's a thing to help small channels, so if you could do that, that will be fantastic as well. But other than that, I will see you all later, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Something slightly different today. And